Opponent accuses me of addressing efficacy throughout my speech instead of supporting my criterion of ethics. Efficacy means the ability to produce a result, and while I obviously do want to use my plan to produce a result of no animal testing and more ethical testing, I feel like this goes hand in hand with the ethics criterion. The premise of my case is that it is completely unethical to subject blameless animals to pain and suffering. Then I explain that it becomes even more unethical to continue testing on animals when the testing is ineffective because then this suffering is unnecessary and unwarranted. Finally, I advocate for more ethical alternative testing that does not cause any pain or suffering. He doesn't have an argument here. My whole case is based on what's ethical, moral, and right, so toss this out. Then he makes the argument that human lives are more valuable than non-human animals. I feel like I might have less of a problem with this if he had told me why this is true, but regardless, he is being extremely anthropocentric here. Anthropocentrism is a tendency to evaluate reality exclusively in terms of human values, while devaluing the lives of beings commonly considered lesser, like animals. This human-centered paradigm is a threat to our ecological survival because, just as my opponent demonstrates, it enables us to dismiss the other and to eradicate these life forms and ecological systems. Later in the speech, he tells us that 70% of Nobel Prizes in physiology and medicine were awarded for animal research. I don't really understand how this is an argument. Banning animal testing doesn't decrease the amount of Nobel Prize winners. It just means that they are winning prizes in research that is not unethical. Turn this to my case. Without animal testing, there would be a massive demand for effective alternative methods. This is really the fundamental section of my plan that my opponent ignores in all his discussion. He argues that alternative methods are not up to the task, and the experts say we cannot yet address some things with alternatives. However, my plan solves for these problems. My plan favors these ethical methods and sets a nationwide precedent against animal testing and in favor of alternatives. This demand created by a lack of animals spurs the research for appropriate and ethical methods. We are already on the cusp of these alternatives overtaking animal test subjects. The only reason it has not is because animal testing is recognized to be cheaper. So much of the incentive to develop alternatives is missing. When we ban animal testing, we suddenly massively incentivize greater research and development of alternative tests. This is beneficial because it is the most ethical system. It saves animal lives by no longer allowing them to be tested on, and continues to save human lives because medical research continues to proliferate. Even if alternatives are not up to the task in this very moment, they rapidly will become viable within months after plan passes. I look to historical precedent for this and how rapidly science and technology move toward new methods once these methods are incentivized. When there is a need in our increasingly scientific and technological world, that need is rapidly met. Contrastingly, my opponent states that the rise of alternatives is not here yet, and ethically we must continue to test on animals to prevent loss of human life. This argument doesn't make a lot of sense. As long as we maintain animal testing in the status quo, there is simply no incentive to spend time and money developing more expensive alternative methods. Companies will not want to use expensive methods as long as there is cheap animal flesh available for torture. He also fails to explain how cosmetic and product testing on animals is ethical. He cannot nitpick and choose just to defend medical testing. I think we can all agree that cosmetic testing is completely unnecessary and doesn't even do anything to save the lives of humans. Vote proposition.